from KST Washington, this is the 10 o'clock news.
Who'll stop the rain? That's what many Washington residents are asking tonight. It's been raining steadily since late last night, sending rivers above flood levels and causing havoc throughout the region.
Flooding is reported in many of the outlying areas, causing main roads to be closed down and causing accidents on those still open. Flood warnings forced the evacuation of about 100 people in East King County today.
The Snoqualmie River reached Phase 3 flood stage this afternoon, flowing over the banks, closing several roads. Diane Robinson reports from Falls City, where people were bracing for the worst to come, still later tonight.
Snoqualmie Falls, when the river is at flood stage, is a spectacular sight. It is also dangerous. Over 100 people were forced out of lowland areas, taking the high ground until the coast is clear.
This is the campground that was evacuated this morning. It doesn't look bad now, but that changes fast. And rescuers didn't want to have to come in the middle of the night like they have in the past.
King County Flood Watch Center notified and warned people to be alert through the night.
We're getting a slow, moderate rise right now, but it could just keep going and going and going. And there is a prediction that the river will crest down in Carnation in the morning, like 1 or 2 a.m., at about 3.5 feet above normal flood stage in the winter.
The waters rose throughout the day with a combination of warm temperatures, melting snow, and relentless rains. One by one, the center got word of roads covered by water. Floods are a yearly occurrence here, but no one takes them lightly.
We had a woman last year everybody heard about that got swept away. So there's always an incident that's unusual, but that is pretty rare. Most people are well aware of the dangers and intensity of the river.
Officials say Stage 3 flood stage means damage can be expected. Tomorrow we'll tell the story. In Falls City, King County, I'm Diane Robinson reporting for the 10 o'clock news.
Flood alerts have been posted all over western Washington.
Dave Torsha now gives us a rundown of which rivers to look out for, David.
Well, Charlie, as you mentioned, most of the rain has been falling continuously for the past 24 hours. And what we want to do is take a look at some of the 24-hour rainfall amounts. And, of course, these are a little bit misleading because they're, at the airports, this is where they're official. And, of course, you could be a mile away from the airport and you did not get the heavy rain. Here we are. We've got 2.57 up at Bellingham, very heavy on the coast. In the Cascades at Stampede at 4,000 feet, they report about 3.5, but we've had other reports where it's been anywhere from 4 to 7 inches on the west slopes of the Cascades. 1.27 at both Tacoma and Olympia. And look at this, down south, 0.09 at Toledo. Now, let's take a look at the rivers themselves. The Elwha is coming up. It's not at flood stage right now, but it will be up in about the next couple of hours. It'll be overflowing its banks. And one of the other important rivers is the Skagit. The Skagit at Concrete has already gone over its banks, but the Skagit at Mount Vernon will go over its banks in the next few hours also and get well above it by noon tomorrow. Let's talk about what's causing all of this. Here it is, that tropical moisture coming up from Hawaii all the way into the area. It's been termed naturally the Pineapple Express. We've used this several times. And we've got another wave right back in here, so it's not over. We've got another surge of heavy rain coming. We'll talk about that later on when we're back with the weather. Right now, let's go back to more news with Charlie and Kim.
Thank you. Flooding has closed nearly a dozen major roadways statewide. High water forced the closure of Highway 542, isolating about 100 people in and around the small town of Glacier. In addition, there are closures of Highway 539 near Linden, Highway 9 in Skagit County just south of the Whatcom County line. A rock slide has closed Highway 20 through North Cascades National Park, and northbound traffic on Interstate 5 has been rerouted around Alger because of high water.
Well, in other news tonight, a Tacoma family had an unexpected house guest this afternoon. A car lost control at the intersection of South 33rd and Cushman Street, plowed into their home. No one in the house was injured, just a little bit surprised, to say the least.
Well, when I seen the car coming at the rate of speed that it was traveling, I thought it was running faster than what it did, but it hit pretty good. It crunched the house a little bit there.
Driver of the car was treated for minor injuries at Tacoma General Hospital. The exact cause of the accident is under investigation.
Lucky, huh?
Surprise, surprise.
Surprise. Next on the 10 o'clock news, the #1 soldier at Fort Lewis is about to become the #2 soldier in the Saudi desert.
And more soldiers from the Whidbey Island Naval Air Station are heading to the Gulf. We'll have reaction.
The The buildup in the Persian Gulf is going to have a major impact at the Whidbey Island Naval Air Station. The number of Whidbey personnel deployed to the Gulf will jump from the current 1,000 to 1,500 or more. As Jerry Kemp reports, base officials say morale is good in the wake of the new deployment, but some Navy dependents say they're a little bit worried.
The sharp increase in the number of units heading to the Persian Gulf from the Whidbey Island Naval Air Station is a reflection of the importance the Pentagon places on the planes and personnel based here. The EA-6B Prowler electronic warfare jet and the A-6E Intruder bomber are prized for their radar jamming and high-payload all-weather bombing capabilities. There are now 3 Intruder and 1 A-6E squadron attached to the 3 aircraft carriers currently on duty in the Gulf. With deployment of 3 additional carriers, 5 more Whidbey squadrons are expected to head for the Gulf. That will mean that nearly half of all squadrons based here will be deployed in the Gulf. Base officials say the latest buildup has been well received.
This is what the active duty sailor trains for. They're prepared for it. So I'd say the morale is very high here. The people are anxious.
But in the town of Oak Harbor, where nearly everyone has some connection to the naval base, opinion on the deployment isn't quite so upbeat. At the photo mill store, every employee and customer we spoke with had a family member or friend either already in the Persian Gulf or likely to go. Karen Phillips' son-in-law is a squadron technician heading to the Gulf.
And I'm concerned about getting into a war situation if we don't really need it, and I don't think we've given it enough time.
So you worry about your son-in-law?
That you do. You worry about all of it.
Lisa Lauer's husband, also an electronics technician, may soon be on his way to the Persian Gulf.
I know it's important that he goes over there, but still rather have him home.
Base spokesman Howard Thomas won't say exactly when the latest batch of planes and personnel will be leaving here for duty in the Persian Gulf. But with the pace of events in the Gulf quickening all the time, it is likely that departure will be sooner rather than later. On Whidbey Island, Jerry Kemp for the 10 o'clock news.
The top soldier at Fort Lewis has been named Deputy Commander of all U.S. forces in Saudi Arabia. Fort Lewis Commander Lieutenant General Calvin Waller will leave for the Middle East next Wednesday. Waller will be reunited with Operation Desert Shield Commander General Norman Schwarzkopf. The two ran Fort Lewis back in 1986 and 1987 together. General Waller said that although he has no desert combat experience, he says he did fight in the war in Vietnam.
I'm concerned that when and if we have to use military force, that we give the very best in leadership that we possibly can to prevent any loss of life as we enter into such an endeavor. I am hopeful that we can have a peaceful resolution.
As Deputy Commander, General Waller said he expects to be tending to the nuts and bolts details of Operation Desert Shield. After his 6 months or more in Saudi Arabia, Waller will return to command Fort Lewis.
The United States has effectively given Iraq an ultimatum. Get your troops out of Kuwait or the U.S. will push you out. Wolf Blitzer has a report on the timetable from the Pentagon.
For the first time in Operation Desert Shield, the Pentagon has suggested there's an actual timetable for resolving this crisis one way or another. Defense officials say they are no longer thinking in terms of rotating troops every 6 or 8 months. And with the potential size of the U.S. military presence in the region reaching more than 400,000, officials say something has got to give. Either Saddam Hussein backs down or the U.S. goes to war. Because of the drain on manpower, the U.S. will no longer have the option of rotating fresh units to the Gulf to relieve weary soldiers. Defense Secretary Dick Cheney signaled this new direction when he confirmed that additional U.S. troops being sent to the Gulf will stay there for the duration of the crisis.
They are not going there as replacements, but rather to be added to the forces that are already present.
Officials say the troops already in place or on the way will be the ones fighting if the Iraqis refuse to pull out of Kuwait. It will be January or February before all of the new forces are in place. And military planners say they can't keep those troops in the desert forever. The forces won't stand for it, neither will the American public. Cheney backed away from suggestions that the U.S. simply threaten the Iraqis with nuclear weapons.
I think we moved away over the years from the Eisenhower strategy, and the Eisenhower strategy worked at one point. I would not want to
argue a strategy that is based solely upon the proposition that the United States would rely on nuclear weapons to deal with this kind of situation.
Defense officials openly described the decision to increase the number of U.S. troops as a turning point. They still hope the crisis can be resolved without loss of life, but they're working under the assumption that it can. Wolf Blitzer, CNN, the Pentagon.
Negotiate before it's too late. That word tonight from several religious and community groups opposed to the war, in the Middle East.
We deplore the campaign to incite war hysteria through racial and religious bigotry. Public support for military action is being focused by creating an enemy that we can all hate.
The Church Council of Greater Seattle joined Washington State St. Freeze, the Washington Association of Churches, and Greenpeace in calling for an end to the military buildup in the Persian Gulf. Former Congressman Mike Lowry was also on hand, urging Americans to act now. He says act now before war breaks out in the Gulf.
Unless the American people right now demand that President Bush move off of this offensive war tactic that he is using, we will have that disaster happen. So we must have the American people of the state of Washington contact our delegation and say, negotiate, not war.
According to St. Freeze statistics, a war with Iraq would kill 10,000 American soldiers and 35,000 Iraqis. St. Freeze has scheduled a rally for peace in Seattle on Saturday, December 1st.
The steering committee for the United Nations General Assembly said no to an Iraqi request to talk about the U.S. buildup in the Gulf. The committee has never said no to such a request before. Meanwhile, 3 Americans arrived in Germany today, along with 171 other Westerners who've been held there in Iraq. One American, Miles Hoffman, was wearing a cast after his arm was shot by Iraqi soldiers.
That took care of us. We're deeply concerned, treated Brenda like a lady, and anything that we requested within reason except beer and an ecstasy were given to us.
Both Hoffman and Swanky are in hospitals for observation tonight. It was a meeting of the minds in Germany today. Soviet President Mikhail Gorbachev and German Chancellor Helmut Kohl are putting the Cold War behind them. Gorbachev and Kohl signed a non-aggression treaty. In it, both nations pledged not to attack the other and to honor the borders of all European nations. Gorbachev's trip to Germany falls on the first anniversary of the opening of the Berlin Wall. The Soviet president will stay in Germany for the next couple of days.
Still hard to believe all the great things that have happened over there in the past year.
That's right, in a year.
Well, coming up, Seattle's so-called Green Lake rapist receives an exceptional sentence.
And residents in North Bend are up in arms about a proposal to build a new state prison in their backyard.
Three enlisted men at the Whidbey Island Naval Air Station have been arrested in connection with an October 7th cross-burning incident. The 3 face charges of felony malicious harassment. The suspects allegedly burned a cross and painted swastikas at the home of Brian Williams, a black man. Williams had worked as a Navy technician at the Whidbey Naval Base until last March. Oak Harbor Mayor Al Keechie says he and other community leaders deplore the cross-burning.
Of course, we were very disappointed and discouraged in our community to have this type of incident happen. We hope that it'll never happen again. We're very pleased and happy that we apprehended the individuals that caused this problem, and we're going to take every action we can to make sure it doesn't happen in Oak Harbor.
The 3 suspects have been released on their own recognizance, but have been ordered held at base barracks.
Mason County authorities have a man in custody tonight in connection with a fatal shooting that happened this morning. Police say the body of Terry Grimes was found at his home near Brennan on the Olympic Peninsula. The 22-year-old man in custody reportedly called police to tell them he had been involved in the shooting. Bail has been denied for former Seahawks general manager Mike Blatt. Blatt is accused of arranging the crossbow slaying of a former business partner. The defense requested bail after a mistrial was declared last week. But San Joaquin Superior Court Judge Frank Kim denied the bail, citing the jury's majority vote for conviction. Kim said, quote, "The presumption of guilt is great." A new trial date will be set later this month.
The convicted Green Lake rapist apologized to his victims in court today and then was ordered to spend 28 years in jail. 31-year-old Russell J. Houston was sentenced after pleading guilty to 2 counts of rape, attempted rape, and attempted robbery. Houston became known as the Green Lake Rapist because one of his victims was raped after an early morning jog around Green Lake. The other rape occurred near a bus stop on Aurora Avenue North. Both rapes were committed while Houston was on parole for a 1983 rape conviction. Houston's attorney told the court that Houston does not know why he commits these sexually deviant acts. Houston says only that a black demon just rises inside him. Houston's 28-year sentence was an exceptional one, which means it was longer than state sentencing guidelines recommend.
A new minimum security prison could be built near North Bend. The State Department of Corrections says the North Bend Grouse Ridge site is their first choice for a badly needed jail. As Molly Meck reports, however, the people of North Bend do not want the jail or its prisoners anywhere near them.
Welcome to North Bend. Nestled in the foothills of the Cascades, this community is a popular spot for recreation. But nearly 2,100 people call North Bend home. People here say they don't worry about crime, and they feel safe walking the streets at night.
Most people who live here commute to Seattle. They want to come home. They moved out here to get away from Seattle, to get away from the pressure that the big city and the crime statistics, they feel like they're hiding in.
But you can't hide from progress. A construction boom is bringing more business and more people here, and the state wants to build a prison on this land known to locals as Grouse Ridge. And with the prison comes 400 minimum security inmates.
I'm concerned about that kind of citizen, if you will, being in my community. I'm not sure that I'm comfortable with that.
Photo, this is Arlen. We're open till 6 o'clock tonight. Later if we need to be.
Arlen Reno owns the local office supply store. He also sits on the North Bend City Council.
$7.70 altogether, man.
It seems that everyone who comes in Reno's store is a customer as well as a friend, and everyone is concerned about the prison plan.
We have found 1 or 2 people in the entire area that are for a prison here.
Jeff Boyd is another North Bender. He represents Citizens for Fair and Equitable Prison Siding, a group that opposes the state's plan to build a prison here. Boyd says the Grouse Ridge area is zoned forest land, and he says the group will fight to keep the Grouse Ridge green. But the state is ready for the fight, and many North Benders reluctantly admit that it could be a losing battle. And if that's the case, can life in North Bend stay the same after a prison is built?
How many people are still going to come out, single women to hike who now do? How many people are going to carry firearms? How many innocent people are going to be hurt because the prison goes here and people shoot people out of fear, even though they're their own kids or their neighbor trying to help?
In North Bend, King County, Molly Mack, the 10 o'clock news.
More than half the department, cable news network is apparently defying a judge's court order barring the broadcast of taped conversations between Manuel Noriega and his attorney. A federal judge in Miami extended the order prohibiting the broadcast for 10 days, but a portion of the tape was broadcast anyway. A spokesman for CNN says the judge's order is unconstitutional prior restraint. In the tape, Noriega talks about 2 potential government witnesses for his defense and speculates on the prosecution's strategy.
More than half of the government's case against savings and loan kingpin Charles Keating is in trouble. A Superior Court judge says 22 of the 42 criminal fraud charges against the Arizona developer are too vague and cannot stand as written. Prosecutors will revise and refile the charges. Keating and 3 others allegedly set up a scheme to steer elderly investors into risky junk bonds sold at Lincoln Savings and Loan. Experts say the collapse of Lincoln could cost taxpayers $2 billion.
Boy, that's a lot of money.
A lot of money. Well, up next, we'll see if our state can avoid a major recession.
And animal rights activists are turning up the heat against the military. In a few minutes, Dave Torsha will update our weather situation for the weekend.